Hi, this is Jack Downs. Welcome to my video lecture for today's class. Sorry I can't be in class today. I have a family emergency that keeps me from coming to class. I'm going to really do the same kind of program I would for class. And just like class would have been, this is going to be a relatively short video because I want to give you time to work on the assignment. So let's first look at the schedule, and then I'll run you through the assignment. Okay, here's today's schedule. It is Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. We're going to talk about Audacity effects. What was due this class? Well, you didn't have to hand anything in, actually. You're supposed to be working on your PSA and recording. Please review the instructions carefully. I'll go over them with you again on Monday, but you should be at least planning at this point, doing the rewrite, and maybe even practicing with the Zooms, or even doing your recording. You'll have time for editing and so on still. When you do your editing, make sure you save a good WAV file for the future project. Of course, you're going to submit an MP3. You're supposed to have read for today, Chapter 5, and you had some guidance in the previous day's part of the schedule about what to look for in that chapter. For next class, you should work on your PSA, the effects assignment due on Moodle for next class. That's what I'm going to be going over with you. And remember, next class there is a quiz on the digital audio production presentation, the using your voice, the general Zoom operations, and the reading. Okay, so let's go ahead with the assignment. Okay, I suggest that you print out, or if you don't want to print it, just go and look at a copy and keep handy a copy of the Processing Effects assignment, which is available for download on Moodle. So that's the assignment you need. I don't have hard copies for you because I'm not there. So I'm looking at it right now. I'm not going to go through every piece of it with you, except to say you start with something called a PSA. It's not the PSA that you're making, but it's a variety of one. You're going to make your regular project folder on ThoughtSpace in your drive. You have the subfolders, original, working, grading, remember? I didn't write grading there for some reason. The subfolders, original, working, grading. That's funny. Download the PSA file from Moodle, our resource area. Here it looks like that, right? You're going to see for Processing Effect, there's 3 files. You can download all 3 if you wish. Might as well do it right now. You're going to use PSA. You're going to use VoiceEdit. The Plosive file, that's only extra to practice with if you want to. You don't have to do anything with that. Okay, so I want you to open Audacity and import the file. You're going to hear a number of problems with the file. There's 2 giant noises, so be careful with your headphones. You don't blow your ears out. You're going to want to delete those. You're going to do some pre-normalizing. You're going to be doing the noise removal. You're going to be using the amplify command to trim down a plosive, and you're going to use compressor. You trim the dead air, it's trimming tip and tail, and you're going to normalize at the end. Normalizing is something we can do in the beginning or middle to bring a file up a little bit, and at the end we normalize for sure when everything's ready. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll look at the part 2 afterwards. Okay, this is the PSA file, which I have already imported. I'll let you do that on your own. I've also made it fit vertically, which makes it look so tall. A little easy to work with there. And we're looking at the entire file. You can already see a couple of strange things. We see these giant things. Guess what? These are the big noises. These are really big noises, probably ridiculously big, but it's normal that noises, clicks, bangs are bigger in your waveform and end up being clipped and distorted as a result than other things. You can't do too much with a file until you get rid of that kind of stuff, except listen to it. And you should probably listen to every file first off. And here I'm going to listen to this little portion of it.
To visit a doctor in the past year, or a list of the preventative care you need.
So you heard that giant bang. What do we do about that? Well, luckily we have pretty good gaps on either side, so I'm just going to delete it. And I'm going to delete this one too. If I'm not sure if where I'm deleting, I can get in there closer. Now, how much dead air do I have left? how does that sound together? I'm going to let you deal with that. But until I delete those, I can't normalize this file. And until I normalize it, I notice that it's really tiny. It's just a little bit of a waveform. There's very little amplitude. So I need to bring it up to work with it so I can see it more clearly. And because we're going to want it bigger anyway, it's barely registering. When we do that, though, we're going to bring up the reason that you want to have recordings that are close to full amplitude is that if we have to normalize a huge amount, we bring up noise and other things at the same time. But this is the poor file that you have to work with, I'm afraid. So normalizing, usually we normalize, effect normalize, remember? And it comes up at -1 is probably your default. And stereo channels independently, it only matters if you see a big difference between the two channels. I'm going to do a -2 right now, because this is kind of an early normalization. 1 wouldn't be bad either. What happens? It makes the whole thing bigger. Not a whole lot bigger. We're actually still being blocked by this thing here, this big thing, whatever that is, right? In other words, it can't normalize beyond, if you're already, the biggest thing that's there. That's what's going to stop it, right? Okay, so we've done that normalizing. At least that lets us see the file a little bit better. We could listen to it again. We could do other odds and ends to it. But one thing that we're going to notice is there's some background noise. I can see even in the areas, in fact, I'll zoom into one right here, the areas where there isn't supposed to be any sound, it should be silent, right? There's these little bits of waveform. And played at high volume, that would be background noise. So we'll go back and look at the whole file. I'm going to take a portion of that and select it. I'm going to say that's the background noise that I want to get rid of. I select it first. Now, noise removal is something you have to use judiciously. Make sure to listen to the file first so you know what it sounds like, and make sure you don't make it worse. Noise removal can make it worse. It's good to know the idea of noise removal. How much you really use it in real projects, I don't know. You have to tell noise removal first to get the noise profile, what it is you want to remove. That's why we selected a piece that just has background noise, and we say get noise profile. That teaches noise removal what your noise profile is. Now you either select nothing or select it all. That'll have the same effect, and you're going to apply that noise removal. If you had grabbed a piece of sample for noise removal that had good sound in it, it would remove that too. The result often is kind of a tinny, very telephone-like sound because too many frequencies have been removed. So let's do effect. So it's a two-part thing, right? First we choose the noise and teach it the noise, and then we say noise removal, and we say okay. There are a lot of settings here you could play with. I'm going to just use the ones that are default. And it actually removed that noise. In fact, if I look in here, now at high magnification, I would see that there is just about nothing. So that background noise would be gone. But if we sacrifice quality of the entire project to do that, it wouldn't be worth it. Okay, let's go back to the entire project and look at how to get rid of some other kind of noise, like a plosive. Listen to this area.
To live longer. But far too many men neglect.
Okay, that but is a really big but. It's a plosive, sort of. It's actually not that. I tried to make it a plosive. I didn't do that good a job, I don't think. But when you have an area of the file which is a plosive or some other reason has a much higher volume, but you don't want to get rid of it. You need that word, right? Zoom in. There it is, right? That is my but right there. I'm going to grab that whole but, and I'm going to go to Effect, Amplify, and I'm going to use negative amplification, which is de-amplifying, or reducing the volume, right? The amplitude. And we don't have to worry about allow clipping because it doesn't matter. We're making it smaller, not bigger. This would allow you to make things bigger, make individual parts bigger if you want to go piece by piece. We're going to do -3, and then say okay. And it made it a lot bigger. And I actually think I'm going to have to do that again. You would listen to it. You might repeat that negative amplify a couple of times. I did that much. What's it like now? There's the area where we're in right there. This is supposed to be the but.
To live longer. But
it's still loud and probably a little bit too loud. And so I might go that negative amplify a couple more times. You'll notice I've not removed this extra dead air to try to make the pacing of the piece correct. I want you to do that. I'm just going over some of the effects. Okay, let's imagine that we have all that stuff fixed the way we wanted. Well, I might try compressor, effect compressor. These are tools you might use for real. What does compressor do? We're going to compress based on peaks. That's good. And these settings, we'll leave them here for now. You can go and play with them yourself later if you want. The default settings usually work pretty well. Let's look at the waveform, what happens. It made everything bigger in a different way, though. It didn't just normalize it. It took the low volumes and made them a little bit bigger and more in proportion. So you would want to listen to it to see it all count. The listening is what counts, right? What you really did, not just using the effect.
Fathers, husbands, to be a real man, you must live up to your responsibility.
It can give some more kind of weight or bump or force to the low areas. Compressor. Compressor is a tool you might use sometimes. Again, only if it really works altogether. You can read your instructions about it too. We could now, or we could have at the very beginning, trim the dead air, right? Trim the tip and the tail. I'm going to get rid of those. And assuming everything was the way we liked it now, we could normalize, except this time I'm going to do my final normalization. I'm going to make it a -1. The whole thing gets a little bigger again, and now we've got a nice, dense waveform with lots of variety and richness in it. And we've got some background noise still. I can see some around here places, but I'd be afraid to take out too much more of that. You would save your file. You would export an MP3 into your working folder, and that's the one you're going to, with the naming that I suggest for you. There's naming instructions and all that, as usual, in the assignment. So that's the first part. And these tools, I think, are practical and likely that there's a good chance you will really use these. Let's move along now to the next set. I'm going to get rid of the PSA, and I'm going to I'm going to use a shortcut, not do a file import. So just, which is another thing. You can drag and drop into Audacity, but don't worry about trying it unless you really want to. We're going to do the voice edit. Okay, now, you've seen the voice edit file before. I'm going to view fit vertically to see the whole thing. You've used this file before. Let me just play you a little bit of it, and you'll recognize it.
July Parade for audio-video production.
Okay, good. I don't want you to worry about doing lots of editing on this. I just want you to practice applying some effects. What effects? Well, if you look at this pull down, there's a lot of effects. You're going to do weird things to this, just so you can see what kinds of effects are out there. I suggest you might use echo, wah-wah, change pitch. You can try any of them you want. Don't use the ones we already use: compressor, amplify, normalize, noise removal. Those are more like real processing effects that you're really going to use on real files. These would be ones you just would use perhaps to make weird noises. So I'm going to take phaser, and I preview what happens.
From the city of Plattsburgh, 4th of July Parade for audio-video.
Okay, that kind of goes back and forth between speakers. I could take the feedback way up and the frequency, the depth way up to, what happens now? See, and look what it did to the file if I accept it. It does bizarre things to the file. Just tiny changes in those defaults can make a big change. I'm going to do Control Z. My file comes back. So anyway, I want you to play with those. You're going to save 3 different ones that you like. Do something to the file that you like. You know, a neat one is always reverse. Effect. Reverse. Because it changed the file backwards. Let's listen to it now. Yeah, that's fun. Okay. Each time, of course, you're going to get it the way you want it. You're going to normalize it. And you're going to save it with a name. Your last name, and then the name of the effect. So it would be Downs reverse, Downs phaser, whatever, right? Get that right. Some people have trouble with that. It's your last name and then the name of the effect. So that's how you have 3 different file names. We use 3 different effects are the ones you decide on. And you're going to submit those separately. Also, I suggest, so you do one effect, you do another effect. I suggest using the voice edit file and use the effect equalization on an entire file. This is another one to do. another file to submit. So we've done, you've gone ahead and picked, let me make sure I got this right. You decide the effect you like best and you apply it. You name that file effect. And then you normalize, as I say in the instructions, and you repeat it again with a different one, a different effect name. So that's 2 of them. And your third one is going to be using the equalization effects. Equalization effect. So I'm back to my original. I can always do Control-Z's. Effect, equalization. Equalization, you might use this to create a special sound effect. What this does is it allows you to control specific frequencies, and it gives you some curves you can select. I can say, let's make this sound like AM radio, or give it extra bass or extra treble, or I can make up my own. Like I choose AM radio, and I preview.
From the city of Plattsburgh, 4th of July parade.
It kind of removes certain frequencies. I can go to go to individual parts of this curve and move it around. See? To make my own. I can change from grids, remove grids. I can save those curves. I think the graphic equalizer is probably the best one to use, though, graphic EQ, if you want to make your own special ones and try and see what happens when you approach different frequencies in strange ways. So you can make up your own curve. I suggest you probably use the graphic EQ, as I say. You can experiment with the presets. You can customize your settings and save this last one. It will be called last name EQ. So you got that right? You're making one that's an effect, another one that's an effect. You pick which ones you want. And then the third one is the EQ one, last name EQ, using this graphic equalizer. You save all those files, export as exported MP3s, and those will go up on Moodle also. So in the end, you will put 4 files in. I do say if you want more practice, you can use the plosive file. That's fine, but you don't have to submit anything from that. I think that's all I have for you. Good luck with that. You could get a hold of Alex or TA if you have questions or problems. Or I will be considerate if you have problems with this assignment and you need to talk to me in the next class to go over it again. Well, I think this is pretty well explained.